Welcome back to Eastern Plains of Colorado, here at McCaffrey Farms. I'm Alan McCaffrey. I know it's been a while since I posted a video. I had a couple other videos that should have came out before this one, but when I recorded them and went to put the videos together, I only had like a quarter of the files. So yeah, I wasn't able to make those two. So just to kind of catch you up, we no longer have cattle. Dad ended up selling them before, I think it was November, December of 2021, last year. We did that because the cows were all starting to get pretty old. It'd been a while since we bought any, and we're kind of at a point we either needed to sell them all or sell them all and replace them. And so we just, for now, we don't have any more, so we're not calving any cows out. At least Dad isn't. We got the 8960 and chisel hooked up. We changed points. I was gonna try and do some around the 1st of March. Tell you a little bit more about that in this video, and then maybe we'll get to do some this weekend. I don't know. We'll have to see. But got all the points changed. We're waiting on a part for the 8960. We had the part, but it was the wrong one. We should be getting the new one this morning. Then we'll get that put on. But it ended up, thankfully, being too wet. I was gonna try and do it over my spring break from college. We had a week, would have been perfect for what I wanted to do. But we ended up getting like 9/10 of rain, 4 or 5 inches of fairly wet snow. So it's too wet to do it then. A little bit later on a Monday, I think might have been the next Monday, we got 8 inches of a really wet snow. So that was really nice. And then today is April 1st. It's a Friday. This last Tuesday, we actually ended up getting like 4/10 of rain. So far we've had a decent spring. I think it might kind of finally be drying up a little bit to where I could go do that if I wanted. I'll be down there here in a little bit with this, and I'll have to see. But what I'm doing in this is we got the subsoiler over there on some grass, which this will come in a little bit more in a little bit. I ran some cows for some neighbors, and I want to go over where the trails to the tanks were with that, just rip them up because they're a lot more packed than the rest of it. Like I said, a little bit more of an explanation will come, but for now, that's what we're doing there. Now, the second video I wanted to make but didn't work was, and the first little part when I started tractor, I don't know if you can notice it, but our steering wheel no longer says John Deere on it. We upgraded our auto steer system. For 5 or 6 years now, I think, we had an Outback Rebel hydraulic steering kit that ran off of a different computer, had this normal John Deere 8400 steering wheel, and had a similar screen. However, since we upgraded to that planter, it takes a lot of hydraulics. If you remember some of my spring videos, and you'll see this spring, we have hydraulic seed drive on there, which we have to run at full power, full volume, and then we have 2 vacuums that we have to run at little under half the volume. So when we're running the planter, which now is the main thing this tractor does since we have the 8960, our tractor didn't have the hydraulic capacity to run that planter and the auto steer at the same time. The auto steer still worked good on everything else, like the swather, a sweep, all that. We could get it to work really good still. But considering last year, I think I planted like 1,600 acres of corn and milo, I only used the auto steer for 30 minutes. And if we paid for it, I'd like to be able to use it all the time. So that's why we got a steering wheel, is this doesn't go off of anything with the hydraulics. All you have to do is make sure these are tight, which there is no play in them right now. The only play is in the actual steering column itself. But that's why we went with that. The reason we got a whole new system instead of just the steering wheel, because we easily could have, just looking at the way we could have spent the money, I think it was better off to get a whole new system. We got the new computer. They said it should be a little more accurate than if we would have kept the same one. It's the same size monitor, outside's the same. When it's on, it's a little bit different, a little nicer. And we got a new globe with it. So I think that should be a little more accurate too. And as a extra bonus, I guess, the people we bought it from, they've been pretty great to work with. They're also giving us a free row crop activation, which I think is normally like $450 for 3 months. So some pretty nice extras that we're getting with it, and it should just work a little bit better. So we have the other system completely off. All the old hoses that ran up there are off, and the hydraulic portion back there is all off. So everything's set up. We got it calibrated. It should be working. We'll find out today. I'll try and use it some, but I think it's going to work out really nice as long as we get it set up right and everything. But for now, I'm going to hook up to the subsoiler. Everything should be ready to go. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot with it, just a few spots here and there. And then depending on what that looks like, I might try and do some chiseling this weekend with 8960. Like I said, it's just going to depend on if it's still a little wet yet or not. But I'm going to go hook up to that now. Most of our wheat that we've been by anyways is looking pretty dang good. I think we got a really good stand on all of it. I think it was a week Dad wanted to start drilling wheat. We ended up getting like 2 inches of rain or something. So we had a decent amount of moisture to plant into it, and that really helped us, because I know there's a few places around here a little ways away that they didn't quite get that. And their wheat's a little more iffy on the stand. Some of it's just now coming up now that we got some moisture over winter. But this is our quarter of wheat just east of the house. So I know last weekend you could see a little bit more of the dirt still. It wasn't quite as solid of a green, but it's filling in real well. I think Dad's pricing some fertilizer to get it top dressed here soon. And then hopefully we can get some moisture right after we do that. All right, so I am here where I'm going to be using this subsoiler, and I'm going to try and use the auto steer. So while that's starting, I want to explain to you what is going on and why I'm in grass. So this land belongs to a cousin of ours. So I'm not exactly sure of what the exact relation is, first cousin, twice, whatever. I've never been good at that. It used to be farmed by my great uncle Kenneth on Grandma McCaffrey's side. Right now, the way it is, there is 6 circles that will be farmed and then 1 full quarter. I have 1 full section that I'll be able to farm across the road, and then there's 3 quarters here. The reason I'm not doing all quarters and nice square fields is the circles were put in at a different time than some of the corners. The circles came out October 1st, 2021, so last year. But the corners, I believe, is October 1st of 2023. So I won't be able to do it for another 1.5 years. So that's why I'm only doing these. But they came to me because they wanted a beginning farmer to do it, and they also wanted to keep it in the family, and we also farm right around them. From this section across the road that I will be farming and breaking some of it out, right across from that section, Dad actually has a couple quarters of ground that we've been renting for a little while. And then I talked about the full section that we've rented for a little while with this little old store building on it. That's just a mile south of here. So they know us, they see how we farm, they liked how we've always been out helping Dad since we're 7 and 8 years old. We've always been willing to go out and do stuff, and I've actually already been a beginning farmer since August of last year. That's just when all the paperwork had to be done. But I actually just got a phone call. Good news, my operating loan's been approved, so that's nice to know. But it's a great opportunity for me. Also, I was hoping to be able to farm in this area, but all the ground was either already farmed by the owner or the owner already had someone renting it and doing a good job with it. So it does suck that most of it is CRP, because the first year or two you don't get near as good of crops. It's just kind of common knowledge, but it's very well located with all our other stuff. It's all right together. That's going to be really nice. And for the most part, I got a pretty good idea what I want to do. A few of them I'm going to be chiseling, like I said earlier, and what I'm going to be doing with that is here a little bit before Memorial Day, I'm going to be putting millet in it, some Prozo millet. We have a neighbor that did the exact same thing last year, and so that kind of helps me out because I've already kind of talked to him a little bit on how he did it, what he used. He said it ended up working pretty well for the year we had. It didn't get much rain, still yielded pretty good. So that's my thought. I will be doing a little bit of corn on it. Then there's 265-ish acres that are still in production, still in farm ground, and they're both in wheat stubble, so I'll be putting milo in those this spring. So I do have a little bit that's already in farm ground, and we'll do a little bit better, which is nice. But yeah, that's what's going on. Starting this year, this spring, I'm actually going to be farming for myself a little bit. It's awesome. It's going to suck a little bit that I'm going to have to try and still do it while I'm in school. That's why everything's going to, for right now, is probably going to be done on weekends. But it's something I really couldn't have passed up, because if I could have, I don't know when the next chance to got ground would have been. So far, the landlords have been really great at working with me and helping me out with a few things if I needed it. And they're just some pretty nice people overall. So I'm wanting to get it chiseled soon though, because it's kind of hard to see. It is starting to green up. I had cows on this one, and then the 3 circles over there. There's one more circle over there that I didn't get cows on, but I'm gonna let it green up a little bit. I was gonna plant wheat on it this September anyways, so it's not a big deal if I don't get millet on it. I'm gonna let it green up, try and get it swathed, sell it as hay, just get a little bit more money from it. I would have liked to have just gotten cows on it, would have been a lot simpler, but I have someone that might be interested. We'll go from there. But I want to get it chiseled up, so in that way in a few weeks I can come back in and disc it and get it smoothed up before, if I have to spray it before I plant it, or when I plant it, it'll be smoother. But as of right now, that's what's going on. I'm gonna work up these trails. There's this one, and then in that circle there's a little bit, and then the circle to the west, we had to go around the circle a little more, and just some of the times it got muddy from snow. I just want to go over with this to get it broken up a little bit better, because it is going to be harder here. Then in that quarter of wheat stubble just over there, there's a few spots I want to hit, just make it a little bit nicer. So that's what I'm going to be doing for right now. So as you can see, the steering wheel's turning itself. It just has these brackets here to help hold it. It is a little bit harder when the subsoiler is pulling down, but for the most part, it's keeping a pretty dang good line. And that's without the extra row crop activation. So I feel like with planting, it should go pretty darn well. One of these points, it's not quite like the others. Yeah, that's not right. Wasn't supposed to do that. And that's the second one of this set that we've had to do that. The other one, we didn't even put it in the ground, but oh well. I guess I'm gonna have to call Dad here, but trouble is, I don't know if he's back from Flagler yet. So if it would have been the one just to the right of it, it would have been fine, because that one's a little more dull, but that one's still got a lot of life left in it. Well, it did, till it broke. Alright, so right now I'm testing out a feature that I'm pretty sure old Auto Steer had, but I'm testing it out just out of curiosity. Remember earlier when I said the fields that I'm going to be farming and breaking out are circles? Well, some circles, I don't know if you can see it, but just to the right of my tire, there's a track. A lot of places in these circles, you can actually still see the old pivot tracks. And this has an option to where if you can trace around the pivot track for a little ways, you can set up a circular track. And I'm trying that right now. And I've went probably a quarter of the way around the circle, just let it go for a little while. And I've been staying pretty well even with the track the whole way. Why might that be important? Well, I'm on the very outside one, and that's the edge of the field. And if I know the general distance I need to go to get to the edge of the field, if I can just track one of these and get a circular pattern set up, what I'm going to do while I'm here is I'll just run this real light around, so in that way when I chisel, I'll know where I need to go to make the circles somewhat more round than just trying to follow them around wherever I want. So far it's working pretty dang well. So like I was saying, I set up a line. There's a track just that way a little bit. I was able to follow around pretty well for at least half the circle before I hit the point, and followed a little way on the line, stayed pretty well. And so now what I'm doing is I'm on a line and I'm just going around. I just have this in just enough that's just leaving the 7 rows, just kind of scratching it. So in that way, when I come back with the chisel, I'll know where to go. I think the way it's going to work out best is when I chisel it, we have a 32-foot chisel, and I'm thinking that it'll work best to do about the middle of the tractor, go on the very outside. Some of these circles are 128 acres, and I think right now what I'm doing it for would be about 125-ish. So I still have a little ways. So I think the best way to do it will be to put the middle of the tractor on the outside row, and that should be about right. And then I'll have a lot better idea, because the circle that I went around for the fence wasn't very circular, and I kind of knew that. But this way I'll know it'll be set up better, and then it'll be a lot easier for me to get the boundary set for the field when I actually come down to start farming it. That we call school section. We had hay on here. It's the 90-acre field. There's like 30 year we had hay in it, I think. But Dad just hauled it off to a neighbor that bought some, and there's a few spots where he went over in the same area with the semi. So while I was down here, he just had me come down and do that. Saturday, April 2nd. I'm in the red Ford. Got a fertilizer tank on. We are top dressing some wheat. I think Justin should be able to get Dad's done. We got the first quarter done here at the house. It's 9 o'clock. We're heading down to do stuff down south. He just left. He's right in front of me. Dad got it ordered yesterday. I believe it's 20005, so 20005. And so what that means is there's 20 pounds of nitrogen, 0 phosphorus and potassium, and then 5 pounds of sulfur, working with our neighbor that works with Nutrient. That's what he said would work. And then later on, when we apply chemical, there will be another form of nitrogen that we put on. It's, I guess, more of a foliar feed, I think is how he is what he said it is. We're putting on 10 gallon an acre right now, so it's going decent so far. The first quarter we got it done fairly quick, but from now on should just be nice square fields. This is the one we have to deal with the sprinkler in the middle. The fields we're going to now is what we call neat fields. There's this full section with 2 strips of wheat, and so those ones, that's where we have the cone bottom tanks like normal, so Justin can just fill up out of those. But otherwise, the 2 north ones, I think we'll fill this tank up, and he's still got a little bit in that. I don't know how much he's gonna have in his sprayer, but between this and what's on the sprayer, we'll have enough to do the 2 north fields. Then there's a county line, so we'll get it done eventually. But I'm just gonna kind of help run fertilizer around for him, and it'll be mostly for Stoltz's and Mackey's that are a little bit farther away. But other than that, ours shouldn't take too terribly long for him. And then I think he's got a few other acres for someone else that he needs to do. So should be able to get all ours done today, and then we will be top dressed. Alright, I just left that store building with fairly full load on this trailer. Justin is just on the south strip. Wheat is looking pretty dang good here. I think he's still working on headlands here. I'm not quite sure. I don't know how much he got done, but yeah, wheat is looking good. I am taking the red Ford home and the 1 fertilizer trailer. We just got done with the last field of Dad's, finished up on Stoltz's. Justin had to turn it down to 8.5 gallon. We didn't quite have enough to do the full 10 gallon, but we got 8.5 over basically all of it except like 100 yards for half the boom at the end. So for the most part, we got everything covered with some fertilizer. So that's done. He's not gonna be able to get to the neighbors tonight where we're going to church. He probably could do some, but I think he said he's just gonna wait and do it in the morning. But as for now, I think that's it. Then hopefully next weekend I can be able to chisel that ground. I'm pretty excited to be able to start doing that. Might not be the best year to start farming, but I'm glad I can actually get some ground to start farming. Like I said, I've always wanted to come back and farm in this area, so I'm glad that I at least have a little bit for now. Hopefully eventually we'll be able to get more, but hopefully we'll be able to have that part, and then next weekend I can at least get started chiseling, get most of it done, and if need to, Dad can finish it up. Once you get that done, only other real thing we'll need to do is start getting ready for planting. Goal is to have the circle and then my 140-ish acres of corn planted by May 1st. So theoretically less than a month left before we start planting, and then after 1st May start knocking out the Milo. Got the Pioneer seed coming for the Milo. Said gonna try that. A few people said it's been a little bit better around us. Then hopefully that'll work decent. But as for now, I think this is going to be end of this week's video. Then hopefully next week I'll have one too. So thank you for watching. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe. Otherwise, see you next time.